Hi, this is Catherine, Laura, Oksana and Amy. We are going to discuss the topic of performance-based pay systems and whether they necessarily lead to increased motivation and higher productivity.
In a world that is getting more competitive in business than ever, organizations put more emphasis on the management of human resources than ever before. The view that an organization's people contribute to the success and failure of business is fairly universal. This is because without people to organize, run, and manage operations, there would be no business at all. Competition in the worldwide marketplace has led to organizations need to better understand how they can develop competitive advantages over other market leaders. The focus on having the best human resources available to operate organizations has become paramount, because the effectiveness and efficiency of operations conducted by employees contributes to the bottom line of business. In this presentation, we visit the concepts of motivation, productivity, and the different factors that should be considered in motivating employees to improve their performance.
Let's break down the topic question and first discuss motivation. Stone defines motivation of that which energizes, directs, and sustains human behavior. However, the concept of motivation is a bit more complex than this simple definition. There are many theories that have been asserted over the years about what motivation is, but ultimately there are two kinds. The first has to do with our survival instincts, such as hunger, danger, and the need for sleep. The second type of motivation is based on incentives, goals, and rewards that are driven by our wants. Researchers and organisations have endeavoured to discover exactly what motivates employees in order to encourage the highest level of performance. Tracy claims that it is not motivational factors extrinsic to a person that influence an employee to have higher productivity. Intrinsic factors such as higher pay, promotion, or bonuses, but rather the initial contact and relationship that is developed between an employee and manager, whether this is negative or positive. However, Tracy does agree that motivation can be increased through the use of incentives and should be related to performance only and nothing else. Rewards can be tangible, such as money, vacations, or material items, or intangible, such as prizes and awards.
An organization's level of productivity is paramount in its survival in the competitive business world. The definition of productivity is described by Stone as an organization's total output of goods and services divided by its total inputs. That is the relationship of inputs to outputs. This definition, in essence, is what productivity is. However, it does not highlight the important relationship between productivity and the organization's employees. How productive an employee is within a company has an impact on the overall profitability and the success of an organization. The reason why organizations attempt to assess and incentivize performance is because of the large effect that it has on efficiency in the organization, and so that it can achieve its strategic business objectives. For example, if management notices an employee's sales grow, they may offer gratitude and incentives for their hard work. This would motivate the employee to strive and produce greater sales in the future.
Performance-based pay systems are employed by organizations by providing incentives to the organization's employees. This is in the form of tangible monetary rewards that act as a compensation for higher productivity in the workplace. The objective of merit pay or performance-based remuneration is to develop a productive, efficient, effective organization that enhances employee motivation and performance. Organisations implement remuneration in order to get the most motivation out of their employees, to increase their productivity and ultimately increase the profitability and competitive advantage of the organisation. Stone states that organisations who are seeking a competitive advantage employ remuneration practices that encourage, facilitate, and reward the desired employee behaviours. Some organisations believe that remuneration is necessary in order to get the most productivity out of its employees. Tracy says that most employees work at about 50% of their capacity, and the other 50% is usually wasted throughout the day with non-work related things such as conversing with colleagues and dealing with personal circumstances. The concept of why pay incentives motivate employees can be a complex one. Reasons can include that most people work in order to make money. Other reasons may be goal-related motivation, which is intrinsic within the employee, such as a goal to make a certain amount of money in order to achieve another extrinsic goal. Or it could come from intrinsic motivation of the employee, wanting to make a certain amount of pay in order to prove themselves. An example of a performance-based pay system in action. This is from an employee's perspective. So Leslie applied for a role at Telstra in one of their call centres. The role was advertised to be customer-centric with a focus on sales. The role was also advertised to be a base pay of $50,000 with an opportunity to earn up to $80,000. Telstra recruiters advised that a performance-based pay system was in place. Performance was based on relevant sales targets being met monthly only. Customer service and other tasks were not measured as performance under this system. Some of the key performance targets included to sell 6 new home phone lines to customers per day, sell 10 new broadband internet connections to customers per day, as well as sell 5 new Telstra Foxtel connections per day. Telstra recruiters and leadership described these targets as challenging but achievable. Telstra expected great customer service but did not measure this as a part of their performance-based pay system. If the above sales targets were not met, the employee would receive base pay only. However, if they were met, then the employee would receive bonus income in their pay for the relevant month. Many employees found this high-pressure sales environment demoralizing and the sales targets impossible to achieve. Leslie was one of the 30 recruiters who commenced work in January 2009, but by April 2009, only 5 of these new employees remained. So is there a direct correlation between motivation, productivity, and remuneration? Well, traditionally, managers and organizations have typically viewed that paying employees more would lead to increased motivation and thus higher productivity. Luca quotes Malhotra Ali Goldston, who is a professor of business administration at Harvard Business School, in stating that previous research has shown that paying people more than they expect may elicit reciprocity in the form of greater effort and productivity. However, Malhotra undertook further study to determine if this was still the case. His experiment went something like this. Two groups were employed to undertake the same task. One group was paid $3 per hour and the other $4 per hour. Neither group was aware of the other's existence. At the finalization of the task, both groups' work was evaluated, and it was found that the group paid $4 per hour did not work any harder than the groups paid $3 per hour. As such, Malhotra determined that higher pay did not necessarily lead to better performance, and thus increased motivation. This is further evidenced by Stone, who states that happy employee is not necessarily a productive employee, and that job performance leads to increased motivation due to job satisfaction, rather than the other way around. As such, it is important to note that whilst there is a relationship between motivation and productivity, there is not always a direct relationship of these factors with performance-based pay.
Pay is not the only motivating factor within the workplace. In fact, we have identified 3 other types of motivation that could lead to improved productivity. These are setting of goals, job security, and appreciation and gratitude from managers. In this section, the setting and achievement of goals within the workplace will be discussed as an important motivator. Goal setting is identifying something that you want to accomplish. As discussed by Latham, goal setting influences motivation as it leads to energized behavior, it gives people direction, and provides a challenge. However, Stone states that in order for goal setting to be effective, goals must be specific, challenging yet attainable, and must involve managers giving feedback on their progress. The goal-setting theory is described by Kessler as if you give employees goals, their motivation and performance increases. The effectiveness of the goal-setting theory is discussed by Newbert and Dyke. They state that it has been rated by organizational behaviorists as the most important thing among 73 different theories. While looking into the link between actually achieving goals and employees' motivation, Amabile states, if a person is motivated when leaving work, you can bet that it will be due to the employee achieving a goal. It doesn't matter how small this achievement can be, any progress can contribute to stimulating motivation. Contrastingly, small losses and setbacks that slow progress towards goals can have a negative effect on motivation. An example of where the setting of goals has been proven to stimulate motivation and as a result increase employee performance is discussed in relation to the American Pulpwood Association. The setting of challenging yet attainable goals in this instance made it clear to the workers what was expected of them. The result was that their employees' performance increased by 18%, as well as a rise in organisations' profits. Amabil also provided an analysis of employees' diaries in a study that she was part of. The employees found that making progress in what they perceived to be meaningful work contributed the most to a positive work life, including motivations. An interesting point of view on the effectiveness of the goal-setting theory was by Newbert and Dyke when they describe a different way of using the goal-setting theory to increase employee motivation, a goal that is aimed at enhancing society and community as a whole. An example of this could be improving sustainability, helping others, or enhancing the well-being of the community. These goals are referred to as non-task goals. For example, goals set by organisations to increase their corporate social responsibility. This is in contrast to your typical goal that contributes to growing profits for the organisation. Newbert and Dyke state that in organisations, employees place importance on non-task goals throughout workplaces. A specific example where employee performance was improved through this type of goal setting is where Herman Miller involved their employees on the pursuit of challenging their environmental goals. They decided to design their buildings to be ecologically friendly with other sustainable efforts. In the long run, it helped with boosting Herman Miller's performance. In order for them to have achieved this result, these goals must have resonated with what is socially important to their employees in order to boost their motivation and productivity. Managers can utilize this by encouraging the organization to adopt goals to better the community.
Let's talk about job security as a motivating factor and how it impacts upon productivity. First, what is job security? Well, it's defined as the assurance in an employer's job tenure which can be affected by economic conditions. We all know that humans are complex creatures and each have different needs and expectations which will impact upon their productivity within an organisation. It goes without saying that if an employee's needs or expectations are not being met by that company, then this will be reflected in their job performance. Organisations must investigate and implement policies to meet their employees' needs. Job security is one offering to employees which can increase motivation and thus productivity. So how is job security a motivating factor? Well, offering job security helps employees feel understood and valued, which inspires them to work harder. This is a great way of motivating employees, especially in times of an economic downturn. Employees who do not have to worry about losing their job tend to be more motivated and more productive. In today's ever-changing world, job security unfortunately is on the decline due to technology advances, internalisation, demographic change, and changing policies. If employees are offered job security, they are less likely to be stressed, which in turn means that they are more productive. So why is job security such an important factor to employees? Well, job security plays an important role in the employee's social and working life. Minimising concern about employees' future contributes to maintaining labour peace, increasing organisation productivity, and protecting social values. Using job security could also be considered as a cost-efficient way of motivating employees. A recent news article stated that job security is the chief concern of Australian mortgage holders, with new research revealing that up to 41% of families fear that they may not be able to service their home loan if their employment situation changed. When discussing motivating factors such as job security, we need to consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs gives organisations an understanding of how security is a basic need for employees and describes how this can be a motivating factor. Maslow's theory states that there are higher order needs and lower level needs. It makes sense that the needs of physiology and security must first be met in order to motivate employees. These are the first two tiers at the bottom of the pyramid. Factors such as stable income, job security, and a safe work environment are vital. In order for an employee to feel motivated, these basic needs must first be met. In times of an economic downturn, it is possible that these needs may not be met, especially if an organisation cannot or will not offer job security. Tanner states that it is imperative that these basic needs are first satisfied in order to begin motivating employees. So what's the impact of employees who do not experience job security? An environment of economic uncertainty leaves employees more defenceless than ever before. A study was conducted by the University of Michigan Institute for Social Research showed that fear of being fired can affect employees' psychological and physical health very seriously. The research was conducted with more than 1,000 male and female employees under the age of 60. The studies found that 25% of employees worry about losing their job. Results indicated that once an employee begins worrying about job security, their health suffers, which leads to increased sick leave and reduced productivity. When job security is perceived as low, employees' health complaints are 5 times more as opposed to when it is perceived as high. A survey conducted by KPMG found that more than 75% of participants consider job security as a top priority.
Employees simply wish to know that they are doing a good job and that their work is appreciated by higher level management. Employers showing appreciation to their employees is a proven method of motivation. Whilst money and salary can be one form of appreciation, there are other forms of appreciation that can also motivate employees. This could simply be a thank you card, an appreciation certificate, or recognition in front of their peers. Brooks discusses a recent study that identified up to 80% of employees say that they are motivated to work harder when management shows appreciation of their work. Brooks also states that employees are more likely to stay at their company if they feel more appreciation from their boss. Higginbottom discusses the clear link between employee appreciation and its impact on engagement and thus productivity. Recent studies have shown that companies who regularly show appreciation to their employees tend to develop a positive company culture, leading to highly satisfied and happy employees. Not only does happy employees lead to improved productivity and reduced staff turnover, but it also allows the company to gain a competitive advantage. This can mean an advantage against other companies that do not take an active interest in making their employees feel appreciated. Tanner discusses that the human brain releases dopamine, a reward neurotransmitter. When an employee experiences appreciation in the workplace, this brain function can then have a significant positive effect on the employee's work-life balance. Tanner goes on to discuss how gratitude has a positive impact on a person's wellness, sleep habits, metabolic function, and reduced stress. All of these factors directly impact upon the employee's productivity and engagement. Hertzberg's two-factor theory supports that appreciation is a motivating factor by differentiating between intrinsic and extrinsic factors to determine job satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Hertzberg defines intrinsic factors as achievement, advancement, appreciation, and recognition. He goes on to define extrinsic factors as company policy, salary, and supervision. Hertzberg determined that employees experience greater job satisfaction when intrinsic factors are present, i.e., appreciation and recognition. researchers randomly divided university fundraisers into two groups. One group made phone calls to solicit alumni donations in the same way they always had. The second group, assigned to work on a different day, received a pep talk from the director of annual giving, who told the fundraiser she was grateful for their efforts. During the following week, the university employees who heard her message of gratitude made 50% more fundraising calls than those who did not. So what do you think? Does a performance-based pay system necessarily mean high motivation and improved performance? I think it's clear from our presentation that organisations need to assess a variety of motivating factors that lead to improved performance before considering a performance-based pay system.
There are many different types of motivators that can be considered when examining employee behaviours in the workplace. Whilst pay can be a large motivator for employees, this does not resonate with every employee and will not always result in increased performance. It is important to examine the types of business that are looking at implementing a performance-based pay system and to justify that the increase in pay will actually lead to increased performance. Other motivators should be considered, such as goal setting, job security and appreciation, as well as other possible motivators not mentioned in this presentation, because these factors can also lead to substantial increase in performance.